Hello and welcome to the YouTube channel for the Renaissance English History Podcast. If you are new here, very, very warm welcome to you. I'm your host, Heather Tesco. I've been podcasting on Tudor history since 2009, and this channel is where I put all of my podcast episodes from all the different shows I do, as well as lots of extra content that goes beyond Tudors in scope often and is just extra fun stuff. So if that sounds appealing to you and you want to Tudorfy your YouTube, go ahead and hit subscribe so you never miss an episode that I put out. So today I want to talk about a book that I just read. Oh, first I actually have to show you my shirt because it's really funny. It's probably mirrored, so you probably can't see it fully, but it says "Just a Kid Surviving Adulthood." And I wear this shirt because the struggle is real. So I just had to share this with you. Some of you might get a kick out of it. So now we got that out of the way. Oh, one other thing. Tutorcon is coming up. It's actually 4 months. 4 months from today, we will be having the first day of talks, the first full day of talks. We will have had the welcome party the night before. We will all be bonded and excited to go for a full day of talks and Renaissance Fair fun. So you can go to englandcast.com/tutorcon to learn all about it and get your ticket. englandcast.com/tutorcon, September 8th through 10th in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania. And I will be doing an online version, like a streaming version ticket of it. I just don't have all the details of that worked out yet. But if you can't come to Lancaster, stay tuned for the digital version. And hopefully you can come because it's way more awesome in person to be around all of our Tudor new best friends. And so today I am going to talk about a book that I just finished. And I have to say, I stayed up late. I'm kind of tired because I stayed up super late reading this book because I just had to finish it. It is called, and it's not Tudor related, but it's a little later. It's called Act of Oblivion by Robert Harris. And it came up, it's about the period after the English Civil War and the manhunt for the regicides. So it came up on my Scribd recommendations, and I just saved it because it looked kind of interesting. And then I was scrolling through, I just finished another book, and then I was like, okay, well, what am I going to listen to next? I was listening to the audiobook. And it started and I wasn't immediately pulled in. I was just kind of like, I don't know about this. I'll give it a shot. And it also didn't help. I started listening to it driving to a funeral. So I probably wasn't in a good mood to listen to it. But anyway, I was listening to it and I wasn't completely enraptured. And then I wound up checking it out from the library. The ebook is on Scribd, or I mean, the audiobook is on Scribd, but the ebook is not. And so I wound up checking out the ebook from the library so that I could read as well when I couldn't listen. So I became completely obsessed with this book, and so much so that I stayed up way too late last night just to finish it. It's about a story that I did not know. Of course, the English Civil War kind of culminated with the beheading of Charles I in 1649, right? And I'd read that and heard about that and everything. And then in 1660, Charles II was restored, the Restoration, and the monarchy continued. And I hadn't thought that much about kind of what had happened to the people who had ordered the killing of the king. And this book delves into that. So after the Restoration, Charles II and his council had said that they would have leniency to all of the people who fought in the Civil War, except for the people who had ordered the killing of the king. So there was this kind of manhunt. And some of the people surrendered early on because they said they would be given clemency if they did. But that kind of changed. And two of them, Colonel Edward Whalley and his son-in-law, Colonel William Gough, made it to the New World on one of the last ships before they started like trying to hunt the regicides. So right as it was clear that Charles II was going to be restored, they made it out and made it to New England with the Puritan settlements there who would presumably be more friendly to them and help them out. And so this book kind of looks at the manhunt for them and what their life was like living on the road. And it is historical fiction, but it's based on a true story. And so then I did a little bit of research and I'm totally inspired. It does what all good historical fiction does, which is made me want to learn the truth about it. And so, I'm going to do more research on it, but I did a little bit because mostly I wanted to know how it ended. I was like midway through and it's like, I just got to look on Wikipedia and see how this thing ends because I couldn't take it. I just couldn't take the suspense. And so it's based on a true story, and these guys really made it, and there was really a manhunt to find them. And the interesting thing, I think, it reminds me a lot of like the kind of Les Miserables story, the being on the run, and what kind of life is it on the run that these guys survived. At least initially they survived and they got out of England, but for what? Like what kind of life? Because initially you would think like, oh, you could go to America and you could escape. You could just, kind of blend in. But and the guy who was the manhunter who was chasing them, who is not a real character. There's no record of who this person was, but the author made the point that you can't have a manhunt without a manhunter. So there must have been somebody driving this, which has just been lost to history. But as he was chasing them, he initially thought, "Oh, it's gonna be impossible if you wanna go to America and just kind of blend in and just hide, who's gonna ever find you?" But he started to see it as if then instead of it being this kind of vast land, it was more of like an ocean with these islands of Puritan settlements popping up. And the whole population of New England at the time was only like 30,000, whereas London had 500,000. So it's almost as if they would have been better off just hiding in London, right? Because it's not like they were going to live out in the woods. They had to live in some kind of town, have people help take care of them. They were completely unprepared to live in the wilderness of America. And they were, Puritans, very strong religion. They weren't going to live with native people, so they wanted to stay in their settlements. They had wives, they had kids. I think their the hope was that it would die down, the manhunt, and they could either eventually bring their wives over, bring their kids over, or maybe they could even go back, who knows? Or maybe the government would fall again and the Puritans would come back in power. There was this idea that, maybe this wasn't the end. Charles II coming back wasn't the complete end. Maybe the Puritans would come back and then they could go back. So they were in this constant state of limbo, going from house to house to house, like going at night, hiding. Sometimes they had to hide outside. They hid in caves, never sure where they were, had to rely on guides, had to just kind of trust strangers. And they did that for years. And then there was the manhunt, the person who was after them. And so the book went between New England to London and the person who was like putting together trying to chase them. And it was really interesting to see kind of the methodology he would have used, because where do you even start to try to find these people? But looking at ships records lists, trying to see, what fake names they could have used, trying to track down family members. And then it also focused on Goff's wife, who was younger and had young children, and what her life, this sudden fall from having been high up during the interregnum, having had status and everything, to like this fall where she suddenly didn't have anything. And and so it focused on the manhunter, the family in London, and how they were coping, and then these guys in New England. And also, it took place sometimes in Europe because they were also hunting. It wasn't just these two. They were hunting all of the regicides and, wanting to punish them with a traitor's death, which was not pleasant, hanging, drawing, and quartering. And so it was a really interesting book. And I'm not going to tell you how it ends because I'll leave that up to you if you want to read the book or look on Wikipedia. But I had never heard this story before, and it's made me really interesting. The writing was amazing. It was so vivid. It really made you think about kind of like, why do we live? These guys survived, but to do what? Like, what purpose were they serving, just going from place? And there were times when they wanted to give in, and they actually thought, well, maybe we can turn ourselves in. Maybe they'll be lenient with us if we turn ourselves in. And they would read the newspapers about the other people, the other regicides who were killed. And they had this list of all the people who had signed the warrant against Charles I. And those were the people that they were going after. So they would read about their friends who had who, were executed, and read about their deaths. And they would, at least one of them, Goff would say, well, maybe we should do that too, because look, they're already in heaven. They're already with God. They had a temporary amount of pain, and now look, they're with God and with Jesus, and their suffering is over, and look, we're still here, and what are we doing here? And so there were times when they questioned whether or not they should just give themselves in. And it was also interesting to see the way the settlements kind of helped them and how torn they were. And just 100 years before the revolution, there was still this idea of like, who says that we have to turn these people in? Okay, the king says it, but what's the jurisdiction? Like, we came here to get away from the king and to have our religious liberty. Like, do we really have to turn them in? And just kind of this back and forth interplay between the reasons why people helped them and the reasons why the settlers would smuggle them around and take care of them. And, the royal authorities coming and saying, look, there's a 200-pound bounty on their head. They killed a king, like, you need to turn them in. And the Puritans going, yeah, but I mean, do we really? And so that was really interesting too, to kind of see the different motivations that everybody had at this time. And so many things happened during this period too. So something I hadn't realized was that there were this whole group of people in London who thought that in 1666, the second coming would happen. And the reason was because of having 666 afterwards. And, that's the sign of the devil. And so that's when the Antichrist would come. And one could make the argument that it should have happened in actual 666, but it hadn't. And, there's always people looking for signs. And they believed that the second coming would come in 1666. And so they actually weren't even, some of them, like Goff, who was very fanatical, wasn't even particularly worried about the fact that he was on the run. 1660 was when the restoration happened. And so he was like, it's going to be like 6 years and then we're going to be gone anyway. So what's the big deal? And interestingly, though, in 1665, 66, a lot of stuff happened in London that made people think that it was the end time. So there was a horrible plague. And if you've ever read the Diary of Samuel Pepys, he talks about this period as well. Such an interesting, I want to go back and reread Samuel Pepys now. It's been a while since I have. Anyway, there was terrible plague, like the worst since the Black Death, basically. I think 1 in 4 Londoners died. Terrible. There was also the Great Fire of London, right on the heels of the plague. So imagine that, like, there's this horrible plague that kills 25% of the population. And then, like, the city burns down and people lost everything, lost their life savings, lost their houses. There wasn't like modern insurance. So they just lost everything. And then there was war with the Dutch. So there were like these kind of pillars of the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse or whatever, with like war, famine, because people were really hungry, because they didn't have food, because people were dying and there wasn't enough crops and everything. So war, famine, fire, and disease were coming. And so everybody thought, oh, that's going to be the end. So it's interesting that they weren't even particularly that worried about spending 6 years on the run, because they were like, it's going to end anyway and we're all going to be in heaven. And then, of course, 1667 came and they were still there. And they were like, well, maybe there was a problem with the calculations. And also maybe it's like the new year in March, the way they had done it before the calendar shift. So maybe that's what it's all about. And, then time keeps going on and they become more disheartened and more disheartened. So yeah, it was a really interesting story. And I highly recommend it. And don't give up on it if you start and it doesn't pull you in right away. Like I say, it took me probably 50 pages or so to like really get into it. And then I was so into it, like I said, I had to like download the ebook too, just so I could read when I couldn't listen and listen when I couldn't read. And I was just obsessed with this book for the past like 4 days, and stayed up too late reading it to finish it last night. So that is my book recommendation for this history coffee chat. Really, really interesting. I really got a lot out of that, and I'm really glad I read it. So check it out if you're looking for an adventure story that has suspense and is also filled with history. And the descriptions of the places were just amazing too. I just felt like I was right there. It was so good. So beautiful. So beautiful. All right. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you have an amazing day. Tell me what books you're reading and what books you recommend in the comments. Leave a message. Leave a message if you read this book too, and if you loved it or if you hated it. Either way, let me know. I would love to know. And let me know what books you recommend that you're loving right now too. I also want to know that. Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. It helps me grow the channel and reach more people, and I so appreciate you. And I will talk with you again in my next video.